This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
My favorite thing about Shipt since I signed up for Target Circle 360? No price markups when I order same-day delivery from tons of local stores. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. I won't lie, I've had too much fun being like, markups on groceries? Not in my fridge. Markups on pet food? Not for my DOG. Markups on tools, electronics, home goods, meds? Not in my house. Anyway, it's awesome. Order now at shipt.com/360. Terms apply.
Welcome back, True Crime Army. I am your host, Margot, former active duty JAG turned podcast host. And this is Military Murder, a show where I focus on crimes committed by military members and veterans. All right, if you're listening to this episode, please make sure that you check out part 1, where I interview Command Sergeant Major Bart Womack, and he was the Command Sergeant Major stationed at Camp Pennsylvania on March 23rd, 2003, when we experienced one of our first insider attacks while on a mission. All right, today we're going to pick up right where we left off last week. So if you want to listen to that, make sure that you go back and listen to part 1. I will link it in the show notes. Additionally, make sure that you check out Command Sergeant Major Womack's book, Embedded Enemy. It is a really, really good read, and he really gets into exactly what happened and also steps to take to prevent future incidents like this happening. All right, today we are going to get into part 2. Additionally, next week, I will be releasing a companion episode where I do a single host storytelling episode on what happened in Camp Pennsylvania on March 23rd, 2003. So make sure that you stick around. All right, everyone, without further delay, let's get into part 2.
Military Murder is an independent project and is not endorsed by the Department of Defense or any military component. The views expressed are those of the host. The content of this podcast is not meant to be legal or medical advice. Warning, this episode contains graphic details of murder. It is not suitable for young listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Can I interrupt you one more? I'm sorry. All these questions are just like flying in my legal brain, right? So you're a command sergeant major. You're here to lead people, to shape people, to lead the fight. But now you're like an investigator, right? Like you have like this investigative hat. I can't imagine, maybe I'm wrong, but was CID embedded with you guys at this point? So
they were in theater, but they had not showed up to the scene yet.
Okay, so they were in theater, but they're not there yet. So are you, in your brain, it seems to me like you're like, okay, I have to preserve the scene for a potential court-martial in the future. Is that what you're thinking? Or is this just like instinct? Like you're just like, I watched CSI this one time, so I'm just trying to like, what's going on, Yeah,
I did watch CSI, but I like to joke and say the CSI they had a role in that. It really didn't. I knew donates, and I knew that round was there. And when he handed me his weapon, I just knew that, like I said, I know these numbers, I know these things match. I just knew that. So the best thing that needed to happen at that particular point, again, I smelled it, had been recently fired, because by now we didn't know anything. We know at the time that he was missing until we ever handed him, and ammo and ammo had been missing, right? Grenades and ammo had been missing. But still, to say he did it, can't really say that yet. But let's start with the weapon. So I smelled it, he'd been recently fired, because we didn't have ammo at that point to even like go to the range and do anything. So there was no other reason for that weapon to have been fired unless he fired it that night. So I could tell it had been fired. And again, I knew that the rounds would match, the dodec would match. So I took the weapon, and then they asked if I wanted the grenades. which they took out of the bunker where he was. They ran to protect the massacre. I said, no, leave them in a bunker. That's the best place for those. So I took the weapon straight back to that piece of brass. I got someone that I hate to say trusted, but that I knew would do what I wanted them to do. And I put him there to guard this. I said, you are the guard. I just put him right beside the brass. You guard this, not touch it. And you are not relieved until I relieve you. Like no one else can show up and say, you can go. And, I was still in the middle of the night. And that dude didn't come off there until CID showed up later. I mean, we had him asking me later on in the morning, daylight, well in the daylight, can I go eat breakfast? I said, not until CID comes over and takes charge of this thing. So he's apprehended, his sparks cuffed and everything. And I remember them searching him, or perhaps the lack thereof. And when they stand him up, there's a knife pops out that's on a string. And I remember, I don't know what I said to those guys. It wasn't nice, I can tell you that, because they supposedly searched him. And then I pulled the knife off. It was attached to a 550 cord. And it's so hard that it pops the daggone belt loop. I was like, I'd probably say effing you effing miss or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so they walk him away and, to an area away from everyone else. And I remember him being asked, if he had did this. And so apparently I had been asked something before. And when he was starting to answer, they told him to shut up. So this time when they asked him, he said, well, you told me to shut up. He said, oh, I want you to answer. So he asked him, hey, he did this. And Akbar says, why he did it. Says, because you guys are coming into our countries and you're going to kill our women and rape our children. And I paused to try to figure out, well, who is OUR, our? I was confused by that. I did not make a connection, of his last name and, his religious beliefs, especially to the point that, would drive him to want to kill us based on that. I didn't make all this connection at that particular time. So I was stuck on our. Yeah. So anyway, CID finally shows up to do an investigation. They take him away. But one person that thought that that he had an accomplice. That when they came out of their tent, they saw someone run, but they thought they saw two people running. And CID does an investigation and everything, and they say, no, he didn't have an accomplice. But I knew this guy who said that well. So that next night, again, we have our headquarters right here in the middle, and all these people around us, which is our soldiers, and I had a platoon guard the headquarters. Now they're guarding headquarters, and their weapons are facing out, and guess who they're facing? Our people. Like my trust went out running that fast.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. So I'm definitely going to be telling the story and telling about what happens. And so we know that, at this point, we don't even have to say alleged. It's 22 years later. And it is not alleged. He has been convicted of doing this. And there was a diary and there was all this other stuff. So I have questions for you with regards to insider threats, right? Because this is one of the first-ish in modern history, right? Or at least for the Iraqi war. And I have questions about leadership lessons. So you emphasize training, right? When I talked to you about earlier, you said training and instinct. And so we train for these external threats when we're going out, right? But we often ignore even the potential of dangers from within. I feel like a lot of times, that's why I started my podcast to begin with, right? Military Murder, to warn people that you have to remain vigilant regardless of where you are, regardless of the people you're around. But tell me more about what warning signs do you wish that leaders had recognized about Akbar before that night? Now that because you've done so much research, not only with regards to what happened, but even afterwards, and especially in preparing your book. So tell me about that. What were the warning signs that you wish that people would have picked up on?
That's a great one, and that was the driving force. What are the warning signs? Because you always think that there has to be something. And my thought was the lower level leadership missed something. Like, what did he put out that they didn't pick up on? Because we in more point in this particular case, because we pride ourselves in the ability to take care of our soldiers and their families, but you can't take care of them if you don't know stuff. So you have to know. So how could you not know something? Now, it wasn't going to be when ambush shows up, he's going to try to kill us, but what did he put out that was just missed? So that stuck on me. I don't know that there was something. I just truly believe there was something. I believe Bart Womack would have figured out something. And here's the thing. In that situation, we are in preparation to go fight a war, and 90% of the unit had not fought before, that there's some apprehension. Some people are scared. I'm not going to tell you, but if they present to you, if they give you this thing that says, I'm going to be standoffish, I'm going to be over here, I'm not going to, what I call, participate in reindeer games. Like, okay, we're playing football, we're doing this activity together. It's not mandatory. Well, it's not mandatory, I'm not showing up, but it's going to be over here. That over there thing begs a question. So we're in this war environment, going to cross the border and go fight. It could be the person's scared, and you need to go. So in asking them why aren't they playing or whatever, let's see what the answer is going to be. Like I said, the activity or the behavior begs a question. Then you're going to get an answer. Then you process the answer and maybe a follow-up question or another question or whatever, right? Versus just letting them stay over there. So it could be just got a phone call and there's a family member sick or something going on at home. My wife or doesn't have money and can't feed their problem at school, whatever, and they're not there. It could be something. So that's why they're over there by themselves. Behavior begs a question in every situation, but it can only beg the question if we are in a situation where to understand that that's what's being given to us. So when we talk about signs, what the signs are, we have to be situationally aware to grasp that. It ain't going to be a big old sign saying, hey guys, when the ammo comes, I'm going to try to kill you. Mm-hmm. It ain't always going to be like that. It's not going to be a social media post prior to the school attack saying that it's going to happen. Or it might be. But you're only going to see it if you're paying attention to that person's social media. And report it and do something about it. But let me tell you this. And this is why we weren't going to know what he was going to do, although there could have been some behavior that begged at least a question. In 1993, Akbar wrote, I do not like the military that have too much control over people's lives. I suppose I'm just anti-government. The Muslim should see himself as a Muslim only. His loyalty should be only to Islam. Now, I would tell you that religion doesn't pull the trigger. People do. You become radicalized about it. You can become an extremist about it. And you can leverage that in your mind to do whatever you want to do. But the religion itself, the politics itself, does not pull the trigger. All right.
Amen. That is good.
1996, anyone who stands in front of me shall be considered the enemy and dealt with accordingly. So now it's beginning to change. 1996, and all these are in his diary, revealed at the trial. Destroying America was my plan as a child, as a juvenile, and in college. My life would not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is my greatest goal.
So this is his diary that was with him. They found this in the tent, or did they find this back home?
I think it was back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are his inner thoughts. Like, this is not something that nowadays he probably would have posted on a blog or somewhere. You know what I mean? But these are just thoughts in a book at home. Okay.
It was not in a book, in a journal. In a diary.
Okay.
In a diary. Right. 1998, he joins the Army. So all these things are happening long before he joins the Army. Mm-hmm. So he planned to do this. Yep. The first one said, I don't like the military. I suppose I'm anti-government. And then he goes on about his ideology. And then he says, whoever stands in front of me should be considered an enemy. And then he says, my goal is to destroy America. And then he joins the Army. Now, there's no one person that can destroy America. There's no button you can push from any other country and destroy America. You can destroy parts of it. You can put a dent. You can do some damage. Mm-hmm. So his goal to destroy America, you figure out which part you're going to affect. So begin to destroy pieces of America. Mm-hmm. In this mm-hmm. we were the pieces of America.
So I have a question. So these are his diary entries, and I'll let you finish reading them. But my question is, does he ever share these? Do we learn that? Does he ever share these thoughts with like humans, other soldiers? No. Okay.
No. February 2003. Remember, this happens in March 2003. You guys are coming to our country. You're going to rape our women, and kill our children. Same thing he said that night. He also says this: I'm not going to do anything as long as I stay here at Fort Campbell. But as soon as I am in Iraq, I'm going to try to kill as many of them as possible. That was written in February 2003. Attack happens in March. So was there a sign that was ever going to show all this? I don't think so. But like I said, certain behaviors, being over there by themselves, certain things beg a question. You ask one question, then you can ask the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. And I'll point out that night of the attack, Akbar was on guard. Our animal just came that night. He was guarding that battalion's ammunition. Him and another guy. He told the other guy to go to sleep, let him off early. Prior to him being relieved, said, I got it. I'll hold down the fort or whatever until we leave. As soon as that guy left, he opened up the crates to the ammunition and grenades and launched his attack. Now he came, again, headquarters in the middle. He probably walked 300 meters to attack the headquarters, where in his unit where he was, and they were asleep. He could just went in a fast tent, put that weapon on burst, and kill way more people. Like I said, these things can always be much worse than they are.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to do that. He chose to walk all the way across the desert, 300 meters, to attack the headquarters. Why? Take out the headquarters, and the body will follow the rest of the unit.
Wow.
And it almost worked. How did it almost work? Because when CID was doing their investigation, they said, need you guys to clear out all the tents. All those tents were cleared out, and everyone was just sitting along this wall. There's a lot of our headquarters people. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, and they were grieving and down in the dirt and all that. Yeah, they needed to grieve, but I didn't want to look at it. So I say, oh, get out of here. Oh, get up right now. Go somewhere when this camp is big. I don't care where you go somewhere and do it, but you ain't gonna do it here. That unit, those people, my people, you could not have sent them into combat the next day or the day after, or even that Thursday. They wouldn't have made it. Those people that I saw had not interrupted what they were going through.
So this leads to my next question. Then the segue is amazing. Okay, so this all goes down. You end up. You stay. Everybody stays, right? Everyone's like, okay, now we gotta like business as usual, right? And by the way, I just want to. I'm not even sure this is the appropriate time, but the subtitle of your book is "We Have Met the Enemy, and It Is Us." When I first read that, I got chills. It's almost like it speaks to the purpose of my podcast, right? So this all goes down. How did that experience, March 23rd, change your approach to leadership? Not only like days later, like within 24 hours, your approach to leadership is completely changing, probably as you were acting and doing, but not just in the combat zone. How did this experience change your approach to leadership later, and then when you continued to mentor young NCOs and even officers back home?
Hopefully I understood that correctly. I'm gonna.
So how did this experience change your approach to leadership?
First and foremost, it was like trust no one. Like, we can't trust this person who took the same oath, wearing the same uniform, says Army or branch of service, etc. Like who can you?
Spoken like an attorney, which is why that's kind of like my going in, idea.
Yeah. Keep this in mind. At this particular time, the war hadn't started yet. Our part, we had bombs on Baghdad, but nothing else. Now, something else began to happen very, very quickly. This happens at 01-ish or whatever in the morning. Later on that morning, by 08, 09, we have ground forces in Iraq beginning to fight. The Jessica Lynch convoy is being commandeered. Now we have POWs. Like, this is the day of all days right here, right? The fighting has begun, ground forces on the ground, to the point where our movement has been, our order to invade Iraq, from our perspective, has been moved up to Tuesday. So this happens on early Sunday morning, go through the day Sunday. Next morning on the Monday, we have a memorial service for Captain Seifert. And then that Tuesday morning, 08, we are we are moving into Iraq.
Oh, so it got moved up because it was supposed to be Thursday and it got moved up Tuesday. So wait, you're telling me that Jessica Lynch, that everything that happened with Jessica Lynch happened the morning of March 23rd?
March 23rd. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. Which rightfully so, because this thing happened now, you got to go to trial, you got to figure, all you know is this happened on this camp. This guy's alleged to have done this and put that on the back burner. This convoy being commandeered and this POWs in the war just started, that's going to move to the headlines, as well as other fierce fighting starting off, in Iraq. So all that was there. So no one knew about this story. And that was one of the reasons for writing this book. I wanted people to know what we went through, first and foremost. And then the spin is to put those proactive situation awareness strategies in the book so that people would have some insight on preventing this in the future, so they wouldn't go through what we went through from the inside. Like,
perfect.
Pay attention all the time.
Right.
So that was the emphasis for writing the book. I want to know about the story first and foremost, but then here's something for you that you can use for the rest of your life to mitigate an insider threat attack. And more importantly, that it's likely it's going to happen from the inside. The school shooting is the student or the professor. It's not someone walking down the street saying, hey, let's go in here. No.
Yep.
They already have familiarity. Like Akbar already had familiarity.
Okay,
they already know patterns. They know where the person they can mitigate it at that school with the resource officer, et cetera. They know where they are. They know what they do. And same thing in the workplace when it happens. They already know.
Right.
So we are the closest ones to it.
So I have a question. So I have a question for you. So in your book, Embedded Enemy, you do expand beyond military, right? Which I think is awesome. You expand beyond military. You talk about corporate and you talk about school environments. But I have a question for you. What's the single biggest takeaway that you want CEOs, school principals, and even community leaders and military leaders as well to learn from the Camp Pennsylvania experience that you had?
I'd say immediately is that takeaway for the world that have happened in the close-knit brotherhood or the armed forces than have any campus, community, organization at any time and anywhere. Domestic terrorism is our new reality. Second to that, and more importantly, because this person who took the same oath I did to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and didn't do that and literally, shot people in the back, that no profession. Now, we hold the military in high regard, and we still need to do that. We hold a lot of people in positions in high regard, and you get to decide how you want to do that. But I will tell you this, that no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The insider threat is closer than anything.
Oh. So I wanna talk, and by the way, I think that's exactly what I try to, I want my listeners to take away as well when they listen to my episodes. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about you personally, like your personal reflections and healing. Now that you've written that reliving the attack while writing the book was both painful, but at the same time healing. What made you decide to tell this story so publicly? And then also, can you tell me when you retired from the military?
I retired in 2006.
Okay. And then you wrote the book and it was published in 2010, right? Or 9?
13.
Oh, 13. Okay. Okay. So tell me what made you decide to go public with your story?
I wanted people to know about this attack. I wanted them to know what my soldiers went through. And more importantly, who the person was that committed the attack. Not to highlight him in any way, but that they can come from the inside. Like, unbeknownst to us, of course. And that's why I came up with that quote. It didn't matter the profession. It doesn't matter the ideology. It doesn't matter the religion. It can come from anywhere. So, but if we focus on, they have to look like the people who flew in the planes on 911, then guess what? Oh, well, the guy with the fair skin, the white guy in Wichita, Kansas, trying to blow up that airport, well, he doesn't look like the guys who flew the plane on 911. And you ain't looking for him because you focus on the guys that they had to look like someone for 911. And then we can get in this false sense of whatever, that's the profile. Oh, they have a profile, Some federal agents say, well, they have a profile. If they have a profile, then why are there attacks? Why is it a school shooting if they have a profile?
Right.
Yeah, well, their profile is not mitigating anything because there is no profile. Get off that. Anybody can do it. So how do we mitigate that? Well, it's hard. Yeah, you don't have an answer. I know you don't. So we all have to do our part in a situation where we are the first line of defense. We're the one that's closer to it because it's the student. So the fellow student has to be one to mitigate with something that in the end, the potential attacker is putting out there. Mm. Those are the things. I watch these things all the time. Every time they happen, and I watch them to see if they're in alignment with my proactive strategies. And sometimes these things are foiled. And if they're foiled, I still watch them to see if they're in alignment with my proactive strategies. Because I know that those will work if they're utilized. And in some cases, they're utilized. And then the ones that they're not, like they post it on social media. Who watches the student's social media? Oh, the fellow student. That's supposed to be their friend. Mm. But if their friend, they know what they're looking for, and they don't find it odd that the person that they're following that's supposed to be their friend, it's a fellow 16-year-old person, and then now they posted something with a gun with some crazy face. You know, it does not concern you, fellow student, that you're going to school with someone who at least possesses a gun or to show it on, a picture of it.
Right.
Like, you're not concerned about that coming to school. Like, where have you been? Because this, every time what happens is blasted on the news. Like, we don't want our children going to school with someone else that we know has a gun.
Mm. Or even, your parents can have a gun, but the fact that you're holding it and taking a picture of it and posting it on social media, that means that's access. Like, you can have a gun in your house and not have access. But if you have access, it's different.
That's what I said here. Not the parents. I ain't talking about the parents. The parents ain't posted it on there. They are.
Mm-hmm.
So having talks with them in administration about looking for those types of things. They're looking for something. We don't want these things to happen on our campus, but I can tell you what doesn't work, this whole avoidance of like talking about it at all in a way to mitigate it outside of a drill. Drills are important. Guess when the drill's happening? Okay, doing the drill ahead of the attack is important because you need to train, just like I talked about, right? But when you have to actually do it, what is happening? Well, the bullets are flying. But if we have an opportunity to mitigate the bullets from flying in the first place, because we already saw on social media that Fred has a gun, but now we don't have to do the drill. We don't have to do it in real life. We don't have to execute it. We don't have to barricade the doors because of the shooter, because we mitigated the shooter, because we've been situational aware and provided proactive strategies. Right. So some of those, the schools are like, I don't want you coming here and talking about this because then everybody gets uptight. Well, I'd rather them be uptight because that's an emotion that they can't display that emotion, when they're dead.
Mm-hmm. It's true. No, you have to confront the issue right up front. I think it does help. It definitely mitigates. I think if you confront people in the beginning. So I have a question for you because you talk about this and people might not realize, or they might just kind of be like, oh, but you're a survivor of this attack. You were not only at Camp Pennsylvania, like you could have died that night. How did you cope in the months and years after the attack? And did your perspective on life change at all?
It's a good question. How did I cope? But part of me, I would say I didn't think about it, that much. I credit God for allowing me to be an insane golfer, loving golf. And this guy, Tiger Woods, coming along and me watching that night, that we get a television and I'm searching endlessly to figure out how to get American golf. And that's what I ended up doing. I watched Thursday night, I watched that Friday night, and I was sure enough to go watch the Saturday when this happened. I didn't get to see it. And then on the Sunday. So even after all this, and I told you they were guarding, I had people guarding our headquarters, all the people guarding our headquarters from my own people. I thought the thank you to God was, I should watch the golf tournament this next night. So I did. I remember putting down here, so I'm ready to golf on, spin right in there. I don't say almost as if nothing has happened, but yeah, I mean, that was the thing that saved me in the first place. So I paid homage to it, for the last round, and Tiger beat the heck out of me. So, I would say that, the therapy has been to write the book. It's never going to go away. I never thought about after that. I get to say it in here how close I was to not being alive if things been reversed. But he threw that incendiary grenade in that first tent in my tent. That was a mistake. He didn't throw another incendiary grenade all night. So when we captured him, I told you he had those grenades. He had 3 frag grenades left and 2 incendiary grenades. But I think that was a mistake. He pulled the pin and threw it. They realized, shoot, that's not a bang. They didn't make a mistake with throwing a incendiary grenade all night. So I had to reverse those, or threw the frag. Had to reverse through the frag first, the incendiary second, or never threw it in incendiary. Then I wouldn't be talking to you either.
Wow. Because
again, that was 5 feet in front of me, and I was sitting in a chair. Just like your silhouette is above your desk or whatever, and where I am now, the desk is below me, the same thing. Then right in front of me. So I still wouldn't be here. So now you can see why I want a revenge. But I would say my theory of fall was telling is to continue to tell the story. Can now feel it's twofer. I want people to know about this, and then more importantly, I don't want them to go through what I went through. So had I known then what I know now, then everybody would have been watching everything. And we were prepared for that, but we thought it was going to be on the other side of the border, not
this wasn't even on my questions, but do you think that the Army has learned, because, well, we have the 2003 incident, and then we had 2009 with the Fort Hood, the Fort Hood shooting. Do you now that we are 16 years post 2009, and then there was another attack in 2013. But do you think that the Army? Let's just not talk about the Army specifically. Let's talk about big military. Do you think that the military has learned from these incidents?
I like to think that if you learn something, then you're doing something about it. So with that context, the answer is no. And this is what happened with this. Instead of pushing it over here as an anomaly of it happening and looking at the reason for it in the first place, like you needed to jump on that immediately for that ideology, since that was the catalyst for this. Mm-hmm. And how do you mitigate that particular part, right? Just that particular part, knowing that has potential again. One, by virtue of the wars continuing going on, and mindful there's 2, there were 2 at the time, as well as the armed forces is made up of society. Mm-hmm. And what they do, their ideology and all those things prior to coming in, but if you're going to do something to eradicate that, that's going to be the makeup of your armed forces. They bleed it with them. You have nothing in what you're giving them when they come into the military, they come to the door that says, you got to leave all that over here. In some cases, a little bit, but you're not telling people, well, this is a religion you can't have anymore. Well, this is your thing you can't have anymore. We don't tell them that. Mm-hmm. We don't do that. And so they come from society. So that's what they're bringing in. Are they bringing it in with a plan? Yeah, I'll get to that. But I will say this. Arguably, first of all these things are copycat world, especially murders and attacks. They're copycat, right? So Nadal San committed his attack for the same ideology, arguably highly motivated and influenced by Akbar. Why? Because Akbar pulled it off. He joined the military. He attacked fellow soldiers based on his ideology, and so did Nadal San. Like, I've seen it done. It can be done. It's that easy.
Yeah, but there were so many more. I feel like in Nadal Hassan's case, there were so many more warning signs in the out in the open. Like that one is.
Yeah, he was known. He said after 911 while working at Walter Reed, he applauded the attacks at 911. So you think about this. He's a medical field, psychiatrist, psychology, and you're in Walter Reed with fellow soldiers, and you hear that after 911. And Walter Reed and the Pentagon's been attacked as well. And you hear that, but you don't do anything.
Yep.
And I may get into one of my strategies, but I can tell you one of them is listen, don't just hear. So if you're listening, you kind of do something about what you're listening. One of them is observe, listen, and report.
Yeah, so give us a list. Give us a list of, okay, so tell us what the list is called and then give it to us.
One more thing, because you're asking about the military and you've learned a lesson, if you will. So first, signs, so answers no. In 2019, a Coast Guard officer plotted to kill, had a hit list of politicians, had a bunker load of ammunition to pull it off. His mistake he made was he had his hit list he was Googling stuff on his work computer of these politicians, see if they had security, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how he catch them. So case number 30 is a PFC in 2021 who, Fort Stewart, Georgia, joined the Army Conflict of San Akbar, who wanted to be deployed with his unit to go kill fellow soldiers. He went as far as to conjure up how we fight and certain tactics, et cetera, and sent that to ISIS and Taliban, or insurgents, if you will, to assist them in attacks. And when he would deploy, he would kill them as well. 2021, so not long ago. So lesson learned? No. Product of society, just like everyone is in this volunteer force, right? So yeah, the answer is no. We haven't learned nothing.
But he got caught before he did it. Didn't he?
He got caught before. Well, the military didn't catch him. He got caught because you start asking for a certain amount of explosives and all those types of things, then federal agencies are going to be alerted.
Okay, so the Fed's caught. Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure that guy got caught before he did it.
Yeah,
he was giving out they had the plans of where they were going to go and where they were, and he was giving those. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. So now tell us your list.
Yeah.
Your strategy.
So first one, trust no one, and I tried to tell you very early on how I came up with that when it started.
What was it? Can you say it again? I didn't missed it.
Trust no one.
Trust no one. Okay, number one, trust no one. Got it.
Now people would hear that and say, "Well, I know I trust some people. I know I have to trust. I don't know if people have to trust somebody. Maybe they want to, and let them develop how they want to do it." I say that because I know people are going to question it, but I want them to question it. I want them to question how they trust. I don't know that you have to. I have expectations of people. Do I trust that they're going to do it? Absolutely not, because I don't get to control that. I expected Akbar to do certain things based on the uniform, based on the oath. After that day, I expected the rest of those soldiers to do certain things. Did I trust that they would? No, because that's already been taken away. So trust no one. Next one, observe, listen, and report. I was a apartment building manager in LA. Like I said, I retired, went out there to do active military technical advisor. I just took over this apartment building, so I was doing an inspection. It came out this one door, and this light didn't come on automatically. So I said, let me write this down. Came out with my pen and paper, looked at the whole building, and started writing stuff down. The lights or whatever didn't work. And as I'm doing this, I said, if someone's watching me right now, they should think that this is suspicious behavior. It's casing, right? Now, apartment building here, right across the street from UCLA. Right across the street from UCLA. Front house on this side, front house on this side. But still, I say, if someone watching this thinks this is suspicious behavior. Go back in the building, start checking lights on the inside, then they're freeze. Well, I've been around long enough to know what that means, that whoever's behind me has guns pointed at my back, and I should freeze. Say, put your hands up, do that, drop the pen, drop the paper, hands behind your back, they handcuff me. And then they say, well, you look like the description of someone that was called in. I said, no, I am the description. Because I already told myself, if someone is watching me right now, they should think this is suspicious behavior. Well, someone did. So they observed. There was nothing for them to hear, and then they reported. Now, I will say that at that particular time, there was 5 police officers that showed up with guns drawn for someone that was a suspect with a pen and a paper. All I did was write. But 5 police officers with guns drawn out. And I don't know if that was a dispatch or everyone just happened to be in the area at the same time. Next one, know your neighbor. And in addition to your next door neighbor and the people in the street. That way, when the police show up and you learn that there's a meth lab next door, like I had no idea. It's either I had no idea or I always thought that I always thought something. I'll say that. But most of them say I don't have any idea. So the more you know, the more neighbors will talk, they'll tell you, right? But this extends beyond just their neighbor next door. This goes to fellow students knowing fellow students, fellow coworkers knowing fellow coworkers. The more you know them, the more they're going to tell you. They'll tell you what happened last night. They're going to tell you where they went. They'll tell you who they don't like. They'll tell you what they're going to do to who they don't like, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, they always do. The attacker at workplace already has something else going on. Whether they ain't like the boss or they ain't like this thing at home or whatever, or the husband has told the wife who works there that when he says, I'm going to come to work and I'm going to kill you. Or in another case where the worker who shoots up fellow employees that work for a railroad in California had often told his wife that he's going to go to work and kill people. Guess what she did? Well, she did nothing. And wrote it off in the end after it happened as, well, he always said if he never did anything. So let me get this right. He told her he's going to go to work and kill people. But she was waiting for him to go to work and kill people so she could tell somebody that he's saying he's going to go to work and kill people. Lady, you can't do anything if he's going to work and kill the people. They're already dead. You can't prevent it.
It's the same.
Told you he's going to do it. He didn't tell you what he did. So again, and that one it's not one of the strategies, but I call that the proximity illusion. The closer we are to it, then the more we're in disbelief that it's going to happen by that person. We're so to the person and them doing like, I couldn't believe it. I never believe it. You get that all the time. Next one is gut check. Our guts are strongest sense. We often don't pay attention to it. So we might need a stethoscope that's attached to our gut and it's here is close to our brain. So when it's talking to us and telling us to pay attention to it.
Something doesn't feel right.
It's the right thing, 99.9% of the time. So that way we were hearing the end of 10 people were dead and 10 wounded. And I always thought, I felt, what'd you do about it? You saw this thing, you heard this thing, you get said to, and you didn't do it. We don't hear about you get said after the fact. You can't bring those people back. Then they'll ask what are the signs. So we say, we had no idea. Well, when they posted the thing with their gun on the thing with an ugly face or whatever, I mean, that's something. Like I said, some behavior begs a question. So there was a sign. You just didn't do anything about it. One of the Snyder brothers, the 2 bombers of the Boston Marathon bombing, the surviving Snyder brother, said after 9/11, he was a younger kid then, maybe 12, 13 years old, said, or maybe even younger, that sometimes attacks like 911 are warranted. But who's he talking to? Fellow 12, 13-year-old. But that was a sign. There's something wrong with that. Like I said, some behavior begs a question, but he said it, or they weren't listening, they just heard it. After the bombing happens and people are interviewed, now we hear, oh, you said that. Well, we can't do nothing with that now. There's signs. We just don't pay attention. Same thing with Nadel's son applauding the attacks of 911. There's a sign, but we don't do anything about it. So we beg for the signs in the end, but we were given a sign and we don't do anything about it. So they're there. Yeah. So there you have it. Trust no one, observe, listen, report, know your neighbor, but listen, don't just hear, gut check and signs.
Wow. No, those are good. Those are good lessons. And I know that you said you were a public speaker now and you go around and you basically educate people on these signs. So I have a few more questions for you. And today we talked about, of course, the March 2003 attack. And I know that you keep in touch with a lot of the victims of this case, the survivors. But for the families of Captain Seifert, Major Stone, and the wounded, is there anything that you want to say to them today with regards to anything, really?
I would. I didn't consult them in writing this book. We never want anything bad to happen. No, I did consult with obviously the survivors, the characters of the book. They are all in, we're all on the same side of telling this story. But what I'm working on now is, I would tell your audience that none of the victims received the Purple Heart now. So I got all those victims on a call back in December 2021. And at that point, I began working with the Army, at least on the awards process, where to submit, how to submit, what they needed, et cetera. So I had to relay that information to them. And then I just went to work on completing all the packet once they sent me the information and everything. Congressman Don Bacon from Nebraska came on board to assist with that, sent a letter to the Secretary of Army, Secretary of Air Force. 2 Air Force people were injured. I'm sorry, 1 killed, 1 wounded. And bottom line, sent a letter in response to the Secretary of Army at that time, which was Secretary Womack. They denied the Purple Heart medals. They quoted something that's in the regulation that was put in here in 2015, and that edition only really accommodated the attack of Fort Hood.
Mm-hmm. So can you clarify? Can you clarify real quickly? So we have the Fort Hood, the 2009 Fort Hood attack. They were originally denied the Purple Heart as well. However, there was some updates to the regulation that then in 2016 allowed for all of the victims in the 2009 Fort Hood attack to receive the Purple Heart. Okay, now continue, because I don't think my listeners didn't know that quite.
Yeah, so a delegation of politicians got involved, went to the then Secretary of the Army, I believe, and got the regulation changed. But in that change, it purely only assisted the Fort Hood attack. So they put in there that the attacker must have been in communication with a foreign terrorist organization, and that the attack was inspired and motivated by that foreign terrorist organization's communication. So it's communication.
Can you say that again, but more slowly?
Yeah. The regulation reads now that the attacker must have been in communication with a foreign terrorist organization, and that the attack was inspired and motivated by that foreign terrorist organization.
Gotcha. Okay.
They knew Akbar was not in communication with a foreign terrorist organization. So he's way ahead of his time, just being a lone actor. The military, it was that long that the country could not perceive a lone actor attacking mainly for those same ideologies, that it had to come from a foreign terrorist organization or communication with it. So he's way ahead of his time. Not to mention that, okay, who cares what it says in 2015? This happened in 2003. So from the time of 2003 to, late 2014, that wasn't in there, so it doesn't apply. Well, they didn't address that. All they say is this whole 2015 thing that accommodates Fort Hood. Why? Because Adel Hassan wasn't in communication with a foreign terrorist organization, but it's communication. I call you, I contact you, you respond, no more communication. But it was established. That's it. All they say, hey, brother, I want to do whatever. Okay, go kill them all. The end. That's communication, and that's inspiration, motivation. I argue that Adel Hassan was inspired and motivated from Akbar.
But Nadal also traveled, didn't he? He traveled.
Maybe. I don't that maybe.
Yeah, I've started my research on that case because I know my listeners are interested in that. I from what I remember, I haven't 100% dived in, but I thought he traveled. So where does the Purple Heart stand now with regards to the victims of Camp Pennsylvania?
Yeah, so right now we got that letter of denial early 2003, and just been trying to fight that ever since in a rebuttal to that. There's a thing called, there's a mandatory level 1 anti-terrorism training that the Army has, and they make every soldier go through that. In that training is the March 23rd, 2003 attack. So if that's not a terrorist attack and he's not a terrorist, why is it in your anti-terrorism training?
So
Mickey Mouse, that would be as relatable. That's equally irrelevant, unless He's a terrorist, and that is a terrorist attack. So it's actually more onto their regulation.
So I just want to briefly, I'm trying to think of having been through the training as well, but I think there's also, I'm not sure of I know that we have insider attack training, but I'm not sure if the insider attack training is also part of the anti-terrorism training. So I wonder if that's where they put it into. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here for the military. I don't need to, but I wonder if that's part of the insider attack.
Yeah, I what I'm telling you is in their anti-terrorism training. I don't know what
the Army. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as of right now, you guys are just appealing. You guys are appealing.
Yeah.
That's
So between that and the quotes, I mean, arguably, if Osama bin Laden said, "Is my goal to destroy America?" Then okay, now it's solidified, just because he runs a foreign terrorist organization, or if anyone says that I want to destroy America is my goal, is my plan as a child and juvenile, destroy America is my greatest goal. Like when did someone commit an attack like this and it's to go destroy America, but they're not a terrorist? Like that doesn't even matter to them. I don't understand that. Because if someone else said they wanted to do it and then did it, then okay, well they're terrorists. I spoke at the National Sheriff's Association couple weeks ago, and the FBI director was there as well as the deputy attorney general, and they were talking about drugs coming in from the southern border, and they called them terrorists. They said these guys are terrorists because these drugs are killing people. So now drug lords and cartels are terrorists, but this guy wants to destroy America and a terrorist. So he's playing around how we fit or whatever our sees fit. You know what I mean? The word terrorist, which at the end of the day, he says, like, is there a definition for it? If the FBI director and the deputy attorney general are saying cartels are terrorists, then how is he not terrorist? Just because they haven't said it?
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting. Well, I'm hoping that you guys are successful in your appeal. So we're getting ready here to wrap up, but I have a question for you. What's next for you? Are you working on any follow-up projects or leadership programs? I know that you go around and you give, lessons learned. I'm just interested. I know my listeners are probably interested in knowing like what you're doing next. I know that you guys are appealing with the Purple Heart, but is there anything else?
Yeah, continuing these podcasts because I get to tell the story each and every time. I need to talk about the details. I get to gain advocacy for all. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes, but go get the book. You get a twofer, not just a story, but you get those proactive situational awareness strategies to be able to save a life in your environment. It's my goal to speak at every college and university. I don't even think impossible. I'm adamant that they need to hear it because no one else is telling it to them. And they don't understand, administrators don't understand, the workforce, the CEOs, they don't understand that those employees and those students are the first line of defense. That attack, if it were to happen, is going to come from the inside. But don't wait for it to happen and then say, we need more gun control. This is what I say about gun control. Okay, yeah, we need it, but if you're going to wait on that and that's your focus, then it's like, Einstein's definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing, but expecting a different result. There ain't going to be a different result. You will be on that forever. And attacks will continue to happen while you're hollering gun control. That ain't happening no time soon. It ain't going to prevent the next attack. But these proactive strategies that everyone can do will. So speaking of all those schools, speaking of all those organizations, spreading that message to prevent the next insider threat attack.
Thank you so much. Well, Sergeant Major, it has been a pleasure for me to chat with you, not just once before, but also today. And I just want to thank you for your service, for your leadership, and also for just sharing these hard-earned lessons with my listeners today. And True Crime Army, for anyone wanting to read his book, Embedded Enemy, The Insider Threat, it is available on Amazon and on his website, and I'm definitely going to be linking it in the show notes. All right, everyone. Well, stay tuned next week as we will dive even deeper into the full story of Camp Pennsylvania. But today I wanted to chat with Sergeant Major Womack, and let's carry his words forward. Leadership is about resolve when lives are in the line, and also trust no one.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to last week's episode and this week's episode, part 1 and part 2 of my interview with Command Sergeant Major Bart Womack. He was a pleasure to talk to, and to be honest with you, our conversation could have gone on for about 4 or 5 hours. However, it didn't, and I do encourage everyone to go pick up his book, Embedded Enemy. All right, next week, I will be bringing you the story from start to finish on what happened in Camp Pennsylvania on March 23rd, 2003. If you're interested in more stories regarding the military and veteran community with regards to true crime, make sure you check out my full podcast library at Military Murder, where I have covered over 250 cases since I started this show in 2019. And once you go through that library, if you want more content, I have over 50 full-length bonus episodes available at patreon.com/militarymurder. Thank you so much to everyone for listening and watching and commenting and rating the show. All right, until next time, remember, you never really know what someone is capable of, so remain vigilant always. You have a fabulous week, and I'll keep digging to bring you another military murder story next time.
Mama's working on her podcast. I don't want to.